Radar.
What?
Say words.
Well, we're gonna go down and see the process of making Peerless whiskey. It's gonna be fantastic. Obviously, there's a lot of equipment that I'm very interested in.
Caleb, you
Well,
being
there's
the...
gonna be other people on the tour, so I'm gonna stay mostly shut up for the entire time.
No, you're not.
He says that, but
Maybe not.
you know.
I have a degree to be in asking questions.
You guys just want to hang out here while grabbing?
Yeah.
We'll get you started.
Now you
All
can
right.
give us a chat as people jump in the stream. That
Oh,
is...
before we're waiting for it to begin?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing the process of making the liquors here.
Tell them where Peerless is.
Peerless is in Louisville, Kentucky,
Downtown.
in the downtown region. Actually, it's right next to the overpass, next to the river. So it's a fairly scenic area, I suppose. And hey, we have found a place to park for free. It's the most important part, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
Well, I know we're still waiting on one, but just go ahead and get everybody in. How was your
It's great.
up there?
It's
Yeah.
great.
It was a pretty cool meeting, yeah.
And Caleb, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's awesome. He's an awesome guy. Hi, how are you doing? Hi, good. How are you?
You guys want to jump rope with the mic cord?
Hey, it is long, but
Let me get over on this side. Actually, yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, welcome to Peerless, everybody. My name's Nikki. I'll be showing you guys around today. Where are you guys from?
Ohio.
Ohio? Okay. What about you guys?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
St. Louis.
Oh, in St. Louis. Okay. What up, you guys?
5 minutes down the road.
Well,
Like it.
yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, I actually usually start off, welcome to Peerless, first of all. I usually start off on everybody, I'm actually a middle school teacher. I teach 7th grade at the Boys Academy here in Louisville. But our current owner, this is him up here, this is Taylor on the left here, and his son Carson, who's out front with his boys right now. He is our president and 5th generation. Carson and I graduated high school together. I've known the family since I was about 8 or 9 years old. Corky used to drive me to practice, and we carpooled together. So we had our 20-year high school reunion here about 3 years ago, and I did one tour. Carson kind of showed us around, and I said, after we were done, I said, Carson, man, I'm a teacher. If you need help, let me know. Weekends, breaks, things like that. So on Fridays, because here in Louisville we're still doing virtual learning, so Fridays are kind of like a different kind of day, so I have time to come in and work. I was going crazy sitting at home by myself. So anyway, that's how I kind of ended up here. That's how a lot of us ended up here. Did one tour and fell in love with the place. So this is our family history room. So this is kind of where we start out. On Saturday, Corky himself would actually do the tour in here, which is really cool to hear him talk about his history, right? His family history. He's our only owner. We don't have any other investors or anything like that. So we're a pretty small craft distillery. Days we're producing, we're making about 10 to 12 barrels a day, which is pretty small. So you'll see, anybody done a distillery tour before? Yeah, you guys have. I'm sure you guys have, yeah. So sometimes, a lot of times we get people in here, especially this summer, doing the bourbon trail, right? So they're like 5 tours in for the day, and it's all kind of, running together. It sounds similar. Well, we do things a little bit differently here, which I'll get into. I'll kind of point out the things that make us a little unique and different. So we'll get to that as we go through the tour. Feel free to take pictures. Obviously, you guys are videoing. Take pictures, whatever you want. It's a small group, so if you have questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer whatever I can. Whatever I can't, I'll find an answer for you. So we usually start out talking about this guy here. I know, sorry to make you guys slide a bit, but this is our original founder. This is Henry Kramer. This is Corky's great-grandfather. He was actually a Polish Jew that immigrated to New York City when he was 5 years old. He had odd jobs around New York City, selling newspapers on street corners, that kind of classic little boy job in New York City. When he hit 19, he had saved up some money, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to get out of here. He said, I have this money saved, I'm going to hop on a riverboat. Wherever I end up, wherever I run out of money, that's where I'm getting off the boat. That's exactly what he did. So he had enough money to make it all the way down to Henderson, Kentucky, which is actually on the way to St. Louis from here. It's right off 64, about 2 hours west of here. Gets off the boat, no money, no job, walks up. There's an old bar on top of the hill called Puckett's. He walks in, he says, hey, I don't have any money or anywhere to stay. If I, help out around here, will you let me stay in your attic until I get myself sorted out? They said, sure. 2 years later, he actually owned that bar, right? It gives you an idea of his ambition, his drive that he had there. He opened a ton of businesses in Henderson. We'll kind of slide to this one here next. One of the biggest ones, the cool ones, I think, is this one here, Henderson Brewing Company. At the time, it was the largest brewery this side of the Mississippi. And one thing that was cool about it was the way he distributed his beer. You see, it's right there on the river, so he would actually throw his beer onto those river boats and go up and down the Ohio distributing his beer, which was pretty cool. Building's still there, it's no longer Henderson. We do, I believe Corky still has the naming rights to that in case eventually wanting to get into it on that side of the business. Craig also owned hotels, tobacco warehouses. He owned a bank in Henderson, or opened the first bank in Henderson, movie theaters. And then this here, before we start talking about the actual distillery, has anyone ever been up to Chicago or heard of the Palmer House up there? It's like, I went there about 2 years ago to see Hamilton. It's like catty corner from that theater. Big old historic hotel. He actually owned that for a while. People always ask, well, what was he doing up in Chicago? At that time period, Chicago was the place to be, right? That's where everybody hung out. So he was up there a ton, so much so he actually bought and owned the Palmer House. When Corky restarted this business back up, he was doing research and found out about the Palmer House. It's now owned by the Hilton. So Hilton sent down 6 interns and kind of gave them some history of the building. Longest continuously running a hotel in the U.S. First out a light bulb, dishwasher. Supposedly they invented the brownie as well, right? Very cool place. If you're ever up there, check it out. I didn't know this until, like I said, Corky used to do this portion of the tour on Saturdays, and I would I like hearing him tell the story, right? So I'd come in and listen to him, and somebody asked him what happened to your great-grandfather, and he said, at the Palmer House was this big grand staircase in the lobby. He was drunk, like hammered drunk, fell down the stairs, broke his leg, got an infection, and that's how he actually died. So not a lot of people know that story, but I like to throw it out when I can. The last thing here is obviously the distillery, the reason we're all standing in here today. This was actually originally owned by Mr. Worsham. He was a good friend of Henry Prager. Mr. Worsham, when he had the distillery, he was making about 6 to 8 barrels of bourbon a day. After he passed away, Henry Prager bought the distillery. He changed the name to Peerless. And after 2 years under Prager, they're making about 200 barrels of bourbon a day. That's a ton of bourbon, especially when you consider the time period, right? Growing your own grains, making your own barrels, all of that stuff. This was about 27 acres in downtown Henderson. I think Corky said that was around 2nd and Main down there. It's obviously not there anymore, but pretty big operation he had going on. Fast forward to Prohibition, right? Prohibition comes along and you can no longer make or sell alcohol, right? So what do? Prager is stuck with about 60,000 barrels of bourbon. Most people were unlucky in the sense that they just lost their product, right? While trying to figure out what to do, he actually had ties to the railroads in Owensboro, which is right near Henderson. He put those barrels onto rail cars in Owensboro and had them like armed guard style, like guarded, until he could figure out what to do with the barrels. Well, it turns out, as he's hanging out in Chicago, he's meeting all kinds of people, and he meets and becomes really good friends with the Walgreens brothers. Everybody knows Walgreens, right? Probably got one within a mile or 2 of your house or where you work. The only way you could get alcohol during Prohibition was through prescription, right? So Henry Prager was actually able to sell his barrels to the Walgreens brothers, who then pushed it out through prescriptions through Prohibition. So he actually made a profit on those barrels, even though he couldn't personally sell them. This is an original prescription from that time period. You can see down in the bottom left corner it says Henderson, Kentucky. So we knew that this bourbon would be Peerless bourbon. These bottles here are all Prohibition era bottles. We actually have all 3 of them upstairs in Carson's office. The first one here was the one that was used in Illinois. You can see it's distillery number 50, for medicinal purposes only, right? It works the same way as it does now. You go in, everybody's sick during Prohibition, right? It's the only way you can get alcohol. So you got sore throat, hangnail, whatever you got going on. You go in, doctor writes your prescription, you hand them it, go to your local Walgreens, and they'll give you your pint of Peerless bourbon. So that was used in Illinois. The middle one here, I believe, was used in the Midwest, so Ohio, Michigan, that area. That bottle has actually not been opened. It's actually a friend of ours, mine and Carson's, a mutual friend, Jeremy Esposito, found that on one of those kind of underground bourbon trading sites, you know, and told Carson about it. Carson bought it and gave it to his dad. But it's never been opened. That's just the portion that's actually evaporated throughout time. The third bottle here is kind of cool in the sense that we actually didn't have this bottle for a very long time. This is the one that was used in Kentucky. There's a guy in Italy that had a huge bottle collection, right? Corky sent somebody over there to find the bottle. It took him, this guy's collection was so big, it took him 2 hours just to find the bottle. Once they found it, made him an offer, but he didn't want to sell. He didn't want to break up his collection, which makes sense. But he did send us this picture so we could display what the bottle looked like. Well, not this past summer, but the summer before, I was doing a tour just like this, and there's 2 guys, I'm telling the story, and they're like, do you think Corky would mind if we, you know, looked for the bottle? And I was like, I'm sure he wouldn't care at all if you wanted to spend your time looking for the bottle. 2-3 months later, they come back in. They found the bottle on eBay. Guy posted for like 20 bucks on eBay. This is an older man, and he had a barn full of what his wife deemed junk, right? And she was like, you got to get rid of some of this stuff. So he threw it on eBay. I think people were kind of battling it out, but they got it for like 200 bucks. Brought it back, actually gave it to Corky to complete the collection, which is really cool. So those are the 3 Prohibition era bottles. You can obviously Kramer had to shut down production, and he never started back up. So this company, it's an old name, but he never started after Prohibition. We didn't start back up until Corky and Carson started about 7 or 8 years ago, is when they bought this building. So good. Fast forward to some family history here. Slide this one. So this was Kramer, Corky's great-grandfather. He and his wife had 1 daughter. Her name was Helene Kramer. This is Corky's grandmother. She married Roy Taylor Sr. He's out of the Zachary Taylor family, which is the family, everybody knows Zachary Taylor, president, whatever. They're from Louisville, right? They both lived in Henderson. While Kramer's up partying in Chicago, they ran all those businesses that I was telling you about. Corky said his grandmother was still doing the books on the theaters the day that she died, right? Well, they have 1 son. This is Corky's father, Roy Taylor Jr. He actually has nothing at all to do with the distillery business, but he's got a really, really cool story. So one of my favorite things about this distillery is the kind of family history, right? So they have him, when he's about 5 years old, Henry Kramer, his grandfather, gets a letter on his desk. It's basically like a threat. Pay us or we're gonna kill your grandson, right? He didn't pay him, but it scared him enough that he sent his grandson to military school when he was 5 years old. Sent him down to Castle Heights Military Academy in Tennessee. He's there for 14 years, graduates at 19 years old. Just his luck, it's World War II, right? So he graduates, goes off to war, runs into his old roommate, Frank Thomas. Frank says, hey, get over here, General Patton is looking for you. We all know General Patton, right? This picture here is actually a much bigger picture down in a museum in Fort Knox. Here's General Patton, and right here, this is Roy Taylor Jr., or Ace. He was actually given the nickname Ace by General Patton for being supposedly the best shot in the military. He was Patton's main aide throughout World War II. A couple weeks before Patton was in a car wreck, he actually gave his 1911 Colt pistol to Ace as a gift. It's the one he carried with him throughout the war. Corky has it. Carson's boys already know they'll have it. One thing that's really, really cool, that was cool to see pre-COVID, was Corky standing here on a Saturday afternoon talking to a room full of young officers that have come up from Fort Knox, not to talk about bourbon and whiskey, but to talk about Ace. They had classes on him. He wasn't just his main aide throughout the war. He was the first officer in Vietnam, in charge of the Bay of Pigs. He was in Korea. I mean, he's a big-time war hero guy. He died pretty young, but when Corky was about 14 years old, Ace was stationed in Oahu in Hawaii. Corky's living the life in Hawaii, right? He's like, I'm surfing the North Shore, I'm having the time of my life. But his dad retires and says, guess what? You're going to military school. I love hearing Corky tell the story because you can still feel how upset he was to have to leave that life to go to military school in Tennessee. So he shows up and steps out of the car, and he meets two guys that would become his main suite mates throughout his time at Castle Heights. Two blonde-headed brothers by the name of Greg and Dwayne Allman. You guys know the Allman brothers, right? Those were Corky's roommates at Castle Heights. Not an accident that they were roommates. The Allman brothers were raised by a single mother. Their father was killed in Korea. And their mom worked for, the number 2 pencils that everybody uses. The guy that owned those factories was Ace's roommate at Castle Heights. So around 14, this guy would help the Allman brothers' mom out. He called Ace and said, hey, are you sending your boy to military school? I'm sending these boys. So that's how they ended up together. One funny story Corky likes to tell is on Sundays they would sneak out and go to the Dairy Queen, right? Because that's where all the girls hung out. And they kept getting caught and they couldn't figure out, how they kept getting caught. Turns out their 4th suite mate was the one that was telling on them every week. And apparently the 4th suite mate was Al Gore. So at one point in time, our very own Corky Taylor, Al Gore and the Allman brothers are all suite mates at Castle Heights. Al moved on from them pretty quickly. That he and the Allman brothers were eventually asked to leave Castle Heights. He said that's the longest car ride he's ever ridden with his dad after he got kicked out of military school. But still kind of a funny story. He ran into, I think it was Greg Allman. Corky has a house in Florida, and Greg would be down there, so they would hang out, sometimes have lunch. He said Greg would go out, take his guitar out to the beach, and they'd be hanging out, and people would be like, this guy's really good. He's like, yeah, I don't know who he is. I just help him carry his stuff here, But Corky actually ran, his career was in financial service industry, so he actually did pensions and retirement stuff for teachers and professors around the country. His wife Jama was a teacher for a long time out in Anchorage, so that's what he did. He sold his company, tried to retire. He was retired for about 2 years, said it was the most miserable he'd ever been, walking around the beaches of Florida, right? So he decided, you know what? I'm going to start up my great-grandfather's business. So that's how we kind of ended up here today. They bought the building about 7 or 8 years ago. Carson was a general contractor before they started this business. So this building, which I usually start with the history of the building, but I guess I can end with it, is about 135, 136 years old. It was originally a tobacco warehouse. Then it was bought by a Walker Bagging Company. We can't go upstairs, like our fermentation's upstairs because of COVID, we had to change that. But when Carson was, because he renovated this whole building himself, right? He took it all the way down to just some outer walls and these beams here. As he's renovating, they found a bunch of those Walker bags in the floor and in the walls that they've used for insulation. So we tried to hang on to some of that, try to preserve some of the history of the building. So there is a point near our cooker down there that I'll show you. We put them in big frames and whatever, but some of those are very cool, over 100 years old. There's a big box that we found too that are filled with those things, which are pretty cool. Last thing I talk about in here is this series of letters and numbers here. This is our DSP number, Distilled Spirits, Plant, Kentucky, number 50. This is a really, really big deal to us, and especially to Corky and his family. DSP number is your federal ID number you get when you start to distill spirits. Why this is so unique is it's the first time in history, usually when a company, there are only a handful of companies that were able to keep producing throughout Prohibition, right? Everybody else had to stop. Well, when Prohibition ended, they started back up again. But when you started back up, you had to get a new number, right? First time in history that the government awarded an original DSP number back to a family after Prohibition. So basically it took Corky almost 2 years of lawyers and litigation to get this number back. So it means a ton. He asked the guys when he finally got it back, he said, if I would have done this the way you guys wanted me to and gotten a new number, what would my number have been? Well into the 20,000s, right? You look at all the distilleries are out there now, Angel's Envy, all those 20,000s, 18,000s. You look at it on that end, you look at the other perspective. Maker's is what, 444, some of the big old guys you hear are number 50, which means a lot here. Also, Corky says 20,000 wouldn't have fit on the floor anyway, so. I think that, any questions about family history before we kind of move on? No? Everybody good? All right, sounds good. We're gonna go right through here. We'll head to the still room next. There is another quick story that I'll tell you, just since I have some time. So if you guys want to just, kind of like hang over here for a second, I want to talk about this picture just for a minute. Usually, we used to have big tours pre-COVID, right? Like 30 people sometimes on a tour, so you didn't have a chance to like tell everything. But this story I thought was really, really cool. This is Vendome, and that's who it makes everybody stills, right? Like we our column still, all that stuff. Well, when Corky was restarting this business, he had to go to them to ask them to build a still. Well, he said he goes in, he's talking to the owner of Vendome, and he's telling the story, Henry Craver, Peerless, and the guy's kind of looking at him, and he's like, what's the name again? Peerless? He said, hold on a second. So he leaves Corky sitting in his office for like 10 minutes, and he comes back. He's got like 10 or 11 people standing with him. And they all just stand behind this guy's desk and are all looking at Corky, right? And Corky's wondering what's happening, right? Well, it turns out when Henry Craver stopped producing, he had to break down his stills, and he actually sent them up to Canada, right? So he had to hire a team of guys to break them down and then actually move with them up there, which took a while. Well, it turns out the guy that he hired to do this was the original Vendome owner, right? He gave him his first like big job. So the people that came in to meet Corky, those were all Vendome family members. They wanted to come in and meet the great-grandson of the guy that gave their great-grandfather his start. Which is kind of a really cool story, I thought. So, a little Vendome history for you. This is our still room. I'm going to slide this away. A couple things, like I said when I was doing our tour, we do things a little bit differently. Usually we go straight upstairs for family history, but we won't be able to do that today. You can kind of see when we go out that way, you can see the bottom of our fermentation tanks. A couple things about us, there's I don't know if you can see on the landing, there's like a computer system that's up there that Caleb, you guys met Caleb, he designed that. Super, super cool. Caleb is our master distiller, by the way. Caleb Kilburn, he's a brilliant young guy. He designed that computer system, which is, Corky says people are in here all the time, calling them, emailing, wanting to buy that system from, not for sale, but keeps everything super consistent. You're not going to see a ton of gauges and hoses and all of that here at Peerless. It's all regulated on this computer system. So, obviously, for upstairs, I'd show you the corn, rye, malted barley. That's what we use, obviously, to make bourbon or rye. Two things I usually tell people. I teach social studies, we did geography, right? So 2 geographic reasons that Kentucky is the best place for bourbon and whiskey. Number 1 is our water, right? We sit on that limestone shelf. It's naturally filtered, filters out things like iron, adds things like minerals, great for bourbon and whiskey. We just use Louisville City water. You don't have to go to a well in central Kentucky to get that water, right? I have it at my house, you guys have it yours. So we use Louisville City water, put it in our cooker, which you'll see in a minute, big giant tank. Louisville City water, we put our corn and our rye in there, cook it about 212 degrees, about 15 minutes, and then we lower it to 145, cook it for about 30 minutes. Then we lower one more time just under 100 and add our yeast strain. Obviously you don't want to have it too hot, it'll kill yeast. And that's how we make our product. It takes about 6 hours to cook in there. When it's done, it gets pumped directly to those fermentation tanks, which you'll see. One big difference between us, one of the main differences is that computer system, first of all, okay? It's all regulated, temperature control. Second thing is we do something that's called a sweet mash, right? Almost everybody else does what's called sour mash, okay? And the difference is sour mash works kind of like a sourdough bread starter, right? When, especially the bigger guys use the sour mash, when they're done cooking, they take about 20% of what's left in that cooker and they add it to their next batch. It helps kickstart the next batch, kind of like a sourdough bread starter, right? There's a natural cleaning element that comes with that as well. It's quicker, it's fast. It's easy. It makes sense for the big guys to do that. We do something called a sweet mash. So what we do is we start over fresh every single time. We use fresh water, fresh grains. When we're done with our cooker and fermentation tanks, we clean it. That is all medical grade steel in there. The fermentation tanks, once we drain them and pump it into the still room, we cover, which we can't go in there, but I think there's one of the big giant tarps, we cover it, and we pump 200-degree steam through there for about 30 minutes and clean it completely. One reason we want to do sweet mash versus sour, first of all, we're small, so we can. It takes longer, it's harder to do, and it's definitely more expensive, but because we're so small, and we can do it that way. One of the big reasons is when you get a sour mash, a lot of times it can strip away some of that grain flavor that we want to hold on to. So, because it gets very, very acidic, that's one reason we do the sweet mash. So that's one of the main differences from us. There are more and more people doing sweet mash, but when we started, there weren't very many at all. We were one of the two maybe that were doing one. So when that's done, the fermentation up there, like I said, we only do 10 to 12 barrels a day. Jim Beam does 2,000, 2,400 barrels a day. For them, a sweet mash doesn't make sense. It's just too hard, takes too long. The sour makes sense for them, but for us, we can do it. It sits in there for anywhere from 3 to 6 days, and then it goes over to there's a deeper tank. We call it the beer well. It's basically like a giant mixing bowl. Just keeps everything in suspension until we're ready to bring it over to the still room. Everything's temperature controlled in those fermentation tanks. So if we're up there, I'd show you there's little gauges on the side that keep the temperature. When it's fermenting, there's 3 things happening. It's creating heat, heat and alcohol, of course, which is the whole point. But because of that heat, the temperature rises. So people are like, well, how do you keep it at 78, 81 degrees? It's because of those temperature gauges. If the computer system senses that it's getting too hot in there, there's actually like hollow coils on the inside of that tank. If the temperature gets too hot, the computer pumps chilled water through those coils. It brings that temperature back down where it needs to be. So you're not getting big fluctuations in temperature. It's pretty much staying where you need it to be, again, for that consistency factor. Once it's done, we pump it to the beer well, and then eventually this comes into the still room. So a couple of things here. The first thing is all of that mash from those fermentation tanks comes through that 2-inch copper pipe coming out of the wall up there. That's where it enters the room. The first place it goes, if you look directly up on the ceiling, that's our beer heater. It's going to heat it up to about 200 degrees and then comes back down. If you count 5 of those circular windows from the top, you'll see a pipe entering on the left-hand side. That's where it actually enters the still. From there, it'll fall through a series of trays that look just like that, called bubble trays. While it's falling down those trays, we are pumping steam up from the bottom. What that does is it separates the alcohol out into vapor form. Okay? And the rest of the mash falls to the bottom, and then eventually here we discard it. But we're looking for those alcohol vapors. So once we get them into vapor form, we need to get them back into liquid, right? So all we have to do is cool it down. So it goes to the pipe on the left there is parallel. That's our first condenser. All it's going to do is take those vapors, cool them down, turn them back into liquid, and then it's going to come out here. This is our low-line spirits tank. This tank is split like right around here is low-line spirits. Comes out of there about 120 proof. And then one thing we do here that's a little bit different than other places, some other places, is we double distill. So from here, we'll take it, send it into our little pot still. If you see our bottles, they're designed to kind of look like this pot still. We'll send it into there, it'll do the same thing, it'll heat it up, separate alcohol out into vapor form, and then it goes into the condenser on the right, turns it into liquid, comes out here. This is the high line spirits tank. So you're coming out about 120 proof here. Here it's 130, 134 proof is what it comes out here. You can see the little tasting glasses. The distillers do come out and taste this throughout the day, about every 30 minutes or so when we are producing. So 130, 134, some places are much higher coming off the still, but that's about where we are. Obviously, federal law says you can't put a product into a barrel at more than 125 proof, right? So So what do? We're coming out 130, 134, some people are higher. You have to add water, right? So this is where we're different again. We're actually barrel strength. What most people do is they add enough water to get it to 125, they shove it in the barrel, they age it, right? And when it's done, they add water on the back end. That's how you get those controlled proofs of, 80, 90 proof that you see in a lot of those bottles. We're different, okay? We add all of our water on the front end, right? So when it comes out here 130, 134, before we put it in the barrel, we put in enough water to get it down to 107, okay? Then we put it in the barrel, age it. Whatever that proof is when it's done aging, that's the proof. Most of ours, let's see, I would say from 101-ish to, I've seen it up to 115 proof, which sounds like high proof, which it is, but it's not going to feel that way. The way that we do things, from the sweet mash to the double distillation, everything that we do, kind of dangerous to drink, right? Because we're easy to drink, but we're also very potent, right, in some ways. And you'll get to taste that today in the tasting room. You'll get to see that. One reason that we put all the water on the front end is a lot of times when you add water on the back end, it takes those fats and lipids in the product out of suspension. It can make it cloudy. So what a lot of people do, they have a chill filter. They chill it, coagulates those fats and lipids, and they filter them out, right, to clear up their product. But that's a lot of that flavor, right? We want to hang on to it. Think about when you're cooking or a steak, right? You want the fat, the marbling, that's where the flavor is. Even if you got a fillet, what do? They wrap bacon around it, right, to give it some of that flavor. The same is true here, right? And when you see it like on the glass, like the legs and stuff on the glass, you can kind of see those, which is pretty cool. We get to hang on to kind of all that flavor. Also, that water goes in with the product, so it's all picking up all that color from the barrel and all that flavor from the barrel, right? We don't want to add anything on the back end. Two more things in here that we can move on. This is our mingling tank. We do a small batch rye and a small batch bourbon, and then we do single barrel ryes and single barrel bourbons. I call this a true small batch because our small batches are anywhere from 6 to 10 barrels in a small batch. I like all kinds of small batches, but some of the bigger guys, that could be hundreds of barrels that you're looking at in a small batch. Ours is 6 to 10. There's 3 flavor profiles that we look for when we find barrels that hit those. We'll dump them in here, let them mix and mingle, and then bottle as our small batch. Obviously, a single barrel is just 1 barrel. You can do, you get on average about 200 bottles out of 1 barrel. So the single barrels are only sold here at the distillery. There's 200 bottles is not enough to distribute, so those are only sold here. The small batch you can find pretty much wherever you are. You might be able to find, like Liquor Barn has some single barrels of ours, but that just means they chose in a barrel and then distribute at their own place, or like restaurants and stuff. But that's our main tank there. This is our dumping station, so you can kind of see there is 1 barrel down here. How we empty these, they're heavy, they're about 500 pounds when they're full. That's a hydraulic lift on the end. Raise that up, roll it out here, and then we dump it. There's a mesh filter in there, and then all this black char that you see, that's from inside of the barrel that comes out as it's dumping. It'll filter through there, and then it goes into these tanks here, and we actually have bottling room on site where we bottle as well. We don't get to see that on the tour anymore either because of COVID, but it's temperature controlled, so everybody likes a bottling room, winter or summer. It's always a nice place to be. But everything, for the most part, that we do is done on site in this building. A little different than some of the other downtown distilleries who just show you parts of it. We're all right here. We do have off-site rick houses where we age, but that's pretty much it. Any questions about the still room before we move on? No? All right, if you guys want to slide out that door, I will meet you on the other side. And if anybody would like a water, there's some strategic in place.
Actually, love a water.
Yep, You can see those pipes are like pipes where it just pumps from one thing to the other. And then our cooker. So here's our big cooker where we cook everything, and then, like I said, everything gets pumped directly to where it needs to go. You guys can slide this way if you want. We're just gonna look at this. This stop only takes a second. It's a grinder. It's pretty straightforward. It grinds stuff. But up until last week, I had yet to have a question about the grinder. And then last week, I said that, and someone was like, "Oh, I got like 10 questions about it." No idea. This is our grinder. It was actually designed by Carson and his friend Ross. A little trivia for you: Ross was my 6th grade boyfriend. But you can see these are our 3 grains here. You got corn, rye, or malted barley. Basically, you just punch in however much you need. What happens is it drops down, goes up. There's a scale. It'll weigh it, and it'll drop it through the grinder. This is a visual to kind of show you that the grind levels, right? When I was first training, we had a guy come in, and I was going to follow John on his tour. And there's a guy who was telling us he's making moonshine. Oh, and he's talking about how terrible his moonshine was. He couldn't figure out what's wrong until we got to this, right? He was throwing whole corn, whole barley, whole rye. He wasn't grinding it up. If it's too big, like on top, it's not going to be able to eat through that and break it all down. If it's too small, it's just going to dissolve when it hits the water. So that sweet spot is kind of that second level there of where you want to grind. So we grind all that, send it into the cooker, and then I told you how that process kind of works. Any questions about the grinder? All right. Right this way. You can also see on the wall here, these are 2 of those Walker bags I was telling you about from that bagging company that we found. There's 3 or 4 of them upstairs as well. You guys just want to kind of stay in here when we're talking about this wall. I love the smell in here. I work at a middle school, so I think everywhere smells better than where I work. But I love coming into here. You guys can slide down if you want. So this, we'll be talking about barrels. Through that door is actually our bottling room. I love talking about our bottle, but like I said, it's designed after that pot still, but Carson designed it. It's really cool. The company that makes our bottle is actually out of Decatur, Georgia. They're not a spirits bottle company. They're a perfume and cologne bottle company. Corky found them and had to convince them to make our bottle, and he wanted them because they used virgin glass, right? They weren't using recycled glass with, the green tint and stuff like that. So you'll see as you kind of go around, perfection's kind of the name of the game. It took Carson 2 years to get that bottle the way that he wanted. So, all right, this is the barrel stop, right? I love talking about barrels too. Our cooper, we use Kelvin Cooperage out of Louisville. They use natural wood burning fires. They don't use propane or anything like that. They can change the flavor of the barrel. You have to use American white oak, brand new barrels, right? Can't use used barrels. One reason they use white oak, it's got a high sugar content. So we talk about toasting and charring barrels. I kind of use a marshmallow analogy a little bit, right? So if you've ever had a marshmallow straight out of the bag, it's not nearly as sweet as it is if you toast it for a few minutes, right? If you're anything like my 7-year-old niece who throws her marshmallow into the hells of the fire, it's going to char the outside, but that middle's still going to be cold, not so sweet. So in order to kind of get those sugars working, they actually toast the barrel first. So they'll toast it, get the sugars working, and then they'll char it. There are 4 char levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Almost everybody is either a 3 or a 4. We're a 3 here. Just kind of depends on what your distiller wants to do. Caleb likes a 3, so we are a 3. You're obviously going to get 100% of your color from the barrel. That product going in, as we all know, is clear. There's no color to it. It picks up the color from the barrel. You're also going to get an overwhelming majority of your flavor comes from the barrel, which is really cool when you do a tour and a tasting and you can taste a single barrel side by side and just how different they are, depending, and that's all done by the barrel. People ask, well, what'd you do different to this one? Nothing. We're making rye, we're making bourbon, we're making bourbon. They might play with the mash bill a little bit, but for the most part, you're getting the same exact process, right? The flavor comes from whatever this wood does from the barrel. These staves obviously are coming from different, they're all from the same tree, they're from different trees, and depending on you know, how that environment that the tree matured in is going to depend on the flavor, right? So you can see this piece of wood could have been from a tree that's top of the hill, a bunch of sunlight, not so much water, and a different soil content than this one that's bottom of the hill, bunch of water, different soil content, no sunlight, and it's all going to make the flavor totally change. When we taste those single barrels, it's really cool to see people like how blown away they are about, you made this the exact same way, but it tastes totally different, right? It's all done by the barrel. The second reason Kentucky is known as the best place for whiskey and bourbon, the first one was the water. The second one is our ridiculous weather. You guys are from here. You guys know what fall and spring is like. It's every season all in a day, right? So summer gets really, really hot. Winter, it can get really cold. People from the north laugh when I say that, but it does get really cold. Maybe not for as long, but it does get really cold. But spring and fall is where you really get the temperature fluctuation, right? Derby Day could be 100 degrees. It could be
snowing.
25 degrees. Yes, exactly. You're getting super cold mornings, super hot afternoons. You're getting, you know, you wake up in the morning, it's wintertime, 10 o'clock rolls around, it feels like spring. Summertime hits around 3 or 4 p.m. and then it's back to fall around dusk, right? You get all of that. Well, the reason that's good for us is when it gets really hot out, the liquid in the barrel is going to expand into and go into this wood. So this line here, you can see, that's where the liquid's actually gone into the wood. It's picking up all that color, it's picking up all that flavor, right? When it gets cold, it's gonna compress and it's gonna squeeze that liquid back out, right? And then it warms up again, liquid's gonna go back in. So that constant fluctuation in temperature means liquid's going in and out of the wood. If you're somewhere where it's too hot, you might get, you're gonna get liquid pushed into the wood, but if it never gets cold enough to push it out, the rest of the liquid doesn't get a chance in that wood, right? Same thing on the other end. If it's too cold, you're not really getting anything pushed into the wood. This portion here that gets pushed into the wood is called the devil share, and the opposite of that is the angel share, which we'll kind of end with here at the end of the tour. So temperature is a big reason for Kentucky being the big place for whiskey and bourbon. Any questions about barrels before we head out? I think that was it. Nope. All right, you guys follow me into the rooftop? You guys been to like big distilleries where they got super high, multiple floors, way up?
Yeah, we did Buffalo Trace not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
Place is huge.
I love their property. It's so pretty. So here at Peerless, we only go 5 barrels high. And even in our off-site rick houses, which we built, as we walk down the hallway in a minute, you'll be able to see pictures on the walls of like construction of the new brick houses out there. They're out in Henry County. It's about 40 minutes from here. But we build out, we don't build up. And the reason is temperature, right? So Buffalo Trace, you're getting multiple floors and super high. Temperature difference is going to be very different between the bottom barrels and the top barrels, okay? Here you're at most probably going to get maybe 3-4 degree temperature difference between this barrel and that one. Not enough to really change anything, right? But there, in the bigger places, you can get 20-25 degree temperature differences between top and bottom. So they have to rotate their barrels. We don't have, there's like 22 people that work here, like the whole company, me included. I'm only here occasionally on Fridays, right? We don't have the manpower to rotate those barrels. These are like 500 pounds each. We just don't have the space. So we do it this way so we don't have to touch them. You can see our barrel heads here. It's got all of our info, Peerless, ESP. These are bourbon. These are from September. If you see, I don't see any up here yet. I probably haven't tasted these yet. We do taste throughout the process, so sometimes you'll see like a peg here and a peg here. They'll drill a hole, the top lets some air out, and then drill a hole here and get the product out of there. That's how we taste throughout the process. It's actually pretty cool. I don't see anyone back here right now, but last week some of the people on the tour, John was drilling and he was letting them taste out of the barrel, which is pretty cool. Caleb came up with a really cool idea. It's called the Series 1. I think we're sold out of them. But basically it chose 6 barrels, and every year we would fill bottles from those 6 barrels. Because unless you work at a place like this, you don't get to see or taste what that aging process is like. You can see it before on a tour, and then you see it on a shelf, but you don't get to see anything else. So we would do it every year. You can see the color change, and you can see the proof change, because they would do the proof as well. Really, really cool idea. So yeah, any questions about, you guys can walk this way. We'll walk down here. None of these, for all of these things, we don't move these ricks at all. The guys have to actually go back in there to drill and taste, which I am way too claustrophobic to do that. You can see on the walls over here some of our brick house construction. Alright, last stop. If some of you guys want to slide onto this wall and then some of you guys on against the barrels, that's the best way I've found to do this stuff. Just so everybody can see. It would get tough, like I get a group of like 25 and I am talking to 2 people right here because nobody else can see me. Alright, this is our last stop before tasting room. This is barrel number 1. All distilleries have a really cool story and history that I found anyway. One thing that I love about Peerless, not only do I know the family personally, but I also know how awesome they are. Corky's one of the best people that you will come across, right? He actually has this business in a 100-year trust. So it'll be owned by Taylor for at least the next 100 years. Not that anyone would blame anyone for selling, you know what I mean? Like, I believe Angel's Envy sold and Rabbit Hole. You make a lot of money doing that, but this is about kind of legacy in family. So this last barrel here, this is barrel number 1. It's the very first barrel we ever filled on March 4th of 2015. This barrel kind of, to me, epitomizes Corky in a lot of ways, right? So I told you the barrel station there, the portion of the liquid that gets pushed into the wood is called the devil share. Well, the portion that evaporates throughout time, that's called the angel share, right? So this barrel will never ever be opened. We will never know what barrel number 1 tastes like. No matter how many people want Corky to open it, he is never going to open this barrel. He's going to let the whole thing evaporate and send that angel share to his great-grandfather Henry Craver as a thank you for starting this company, right? Just a cool story, and I don't know, it's just very Corky if you know him. So that is barrel number 1. You guys have questions before we head into tasting room? Nope. All right, before we go in, obviously you can take your mask down to taste. We just have the 1 glass, so I'll come around after everybody's done and kind of pour. But before you nose it, or don't nose it or taste it yet, there's a certain way that I kind of like to do it, if you don't mind. Come on this way. Just grab a tray wherever you like. And I love this. It's one of my favorite movies.
You two hit the lighted one.
You do have like tasting notes in front of you as well.
Where'd Brian go?
He was
If you need to move stuff, you can move stuff.
Whoa, watch it there, bro.
I had to get a picture of that. That was cool.
All right, so I love this tasting room. I have a 3-year-old now, but when he was 1, we were doing his pictures around downtown, you know, for his 1-year pictures or whatever. And I was waiting for my family to show up so we could take him, and Corky comes down, he's like, what are you still doing? And I said, we gotta do Clark's pictures. He said, well, where are you gonna do them? Like, I don't know, there's a couple places downtown. And he's like, nope, turn on all the lights. He's like, why don't you just do it here? So my 1-year-old has his first year pictures at the Distillery, which are really cool. All my friends were jealous. All right, so first thing we're gonna do, you guys are gonna be trying 2 single barrel bourbons. You're gonna be trying 2 single barrel rye, okay? When we go to nose this, I do it a little differently than, I don't know, some people come in and just take a big whiff. What I ask you to do is go ahead and get your nose in there, but open your mouth and actually breathe through your mouth to nose this. When you do it that way, you're not just getting that alcohol burn to your nostrils, right? You're getting more of that aroma. So This first one here is a bourbon. Sometimes people ask. There's lots of differences between bourbon and rye, but the main one is bourbon's used. To be a bourbon, you have to use at least 51% corn in your mash bill. You can use more, you just can't use less. Same with rye, you gotta use at least 51% rye. Could be more, just not less. So this is, the first one's a bourbon. Go ahead and nose that for me. Anybody get anything on that? Here's the best part about nosing and tasting, there's no wrong answers. People are super nervous to like yell anything out because they're like, oh, that's gonna be wrong. Your palate's different than mine, which is different than his.
Yeah, it's spicier than expected. It's
Yeah.
more like a rye.
Yeah, this one's the, I just tasted this one today. This is Lucky Kentucky Julep. So you can see those notes on there, but when we go to taste, remember, this is barrel straight, so you're looking at 108.2 bourbon. Judging from what I've seen from your behavior, nobody in here has been drinking a bunch, right? So we need to calibrate ourselves to get ready for that 108. Best thing ever / worst thing ever is having that bachelor party group that comes in and tough guys will shoot it back and they just coughing up their lungs, right? You got to calibrate. We're not ready for 108 right now, not a big sip. So when we take this first couple sips, just get a couple drops on your tongue. Remember, it's barrel strength. It's 108.2, but it's not going to feel 108.2. It might in the very beginning. We used to do tasting trays, which I wish I would have sat one out. But you get four glasses all on your tray, right? We were finding that people were always liking number 3 and 4 the best, no matter what order we put them in, right? And the reason, the first 2 they tried, they're still calibrating, right? So I would have them keep a little in each glass, then go back at the end and try them again, just to give it a fair shot. Because we have this one as number 4. When I ask at the end what's your favorite, a lot of people have been like number 4. But if you put it at the front, they'd say the same thing. I still like number 4, even though, you know, it's totally different. So, all right, keep tasting for me. You guys get anything on that? Now they have tasting sheets, so you can cheat a little bit on the notes. I'm a teacher, so I like to quiz people, right? So I'm like, what do you get out of that? Now they kind of tell you. But this is the Kentucky, Lucky Kentucky Julep. So obviously, one good thing about single barrel bottles too is they have this auxiliary label, so you can kind of cheat, you know, people over, right? You guys getting that toasted, whatever that says, I don't have my glasses, toasted sugar, you know what I mean? Like, so you got toasted sugar, honeysuckle, and fresh mint.
Something sweet like lemony.
Somebody said that earlier when I was, because I came in here to taste, and they were like, people have been saying lemon on that end part. And if you don't get anything, that's really funny. If you just get bourbon, that's okay too.
Did you tell the mash bills?
I don't know. I don't know them. I think Perry knows them, or John Hunter will probably know them. So I didn't ask him. I don't know what they are. I know they've changed since the very beginning. Like I said, I only work occasionally. So not bad for 108.2. You guys are doing well. I'll come around too with the next one. The next one is good too, especially if you like those earthy kind of tones and notes. This is the hot toddy one. All these are new, except for, well, the 2 bourbons are new. The ryes are the same ones we had last week, but here.
Oh.
Okay. No problem. No problem. That's why I missed the trays, because you know you can move on.
I was gonna
Not
try
much
each of
people.
them at the same time.
Yeah. Lucky I got 2 more left. All right, so go ahead and nose this one for me. This is the hot toddy.
This one's hotter.
That's what
So
they call
it's got
hot
that.
toddy.
So check out those notes. Yeah, that tea's pretty out there, right on the beginning.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I was talking to John, our single barrel guy, and he was telling me about, he's like, this one's got a ton of, earth notes right at the beginning, right? Caleb loves the earth. So go ahead and nose that for me.
Hotter.
You can also look on your glass, you can see the kind of the legs on there, how it, that's those fats and lipids I was telling you about we get to hang on to here. Go ahead and try it for me. This one is, this is so funny, right? Like the last one's 108.2. This one's 112.7. It doesn't feel that way to me. It feels very smooth, especially, granted, I'm a little bit more calibrated after the first one, but still it's a very smooth for 112 product. That's why I like when people do tours. I'd much rather do a tour sometimes of tastings, because in tastings you can't tell them all the stuff I just told you guys, right? So they don't, it's hard. I try to, and my tastings end up being just as long as a tour, because I want them to have all the info, you know. Anybody like this one better than the first one?
I think I like the first one.
I think I like the first one better.
The first one? Okay. That's the Lucky Kentucky Julep. Yeah, Caleb's big on the earth notes. This one I like because it's very smooth. But I like the sweeter notes a little bit.
A little too earthy for me.
Yeah, so these are both the bourbons. And then rye, man, when I first started, my dad likes rye, but he likes the rye, you know what I mean? Like the super spicy, punch in the face kind of rye. So I always thought I didn't like rye, because the ones I tried were my dad's rye. And then I came here. They call us a bourbon drinker's rye, because we've got a little more corn in that mash bill. It's a little sweeter than your classic rye. Your ryes are going to obviously be a little spicier, pepperier, you know. But I love our ryes.
First one was really good. Second one was super.
A little bit of water opens it up. It's nice. It's nicer with a little bit of water.
Anybody like rye better than bourbon in here?
Rye's better than bourbon. Mm-mm. Nope. Rye's are good.
Honestly, I've kind of changed a little bit. I used to be more bourbon, and this place has changed me when it comes to rye. And now I'm more willing to like try other ryes.
To the fans, to the
Usually I'm
fans,
just
hit.
bourbon. All right, the next one we're gonna do is our first rye. This is the Wolf on Rye Street is what we call it.
That's odd.
Is it mixed?
Yeah. With just a hit of water.
You're right.
Oh, the lucky pour.
Wolf on Rye. You're welcome. They always make fun of me because I have a heavy hand. I told him it's I told him it's my angle, like I'm so short. It's like pouring something the same height as you, you know what I mean? You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, go ahead and nose that one for me. See what you guys think of this one.
Wow.
These, I believe, they're all 4 year, I believe.
That's different than all of the other.
This one got sweet
Right.
nose.
Smoky.
This one's got sweet nose for sure. Sugar cane, lemongrass, and spice bomb. Those are the tasty notes.
Specifically the bomb of spice.
This one is 112.8 proof, so it's right around the same as the last one we had here.
Very dry. Hey, there's straw.
My neighbor's like a huge Peerless guy now. He's like a walking billboard. It's really funny. For Christmas, he got like the hat, the t-shirt, and the mask. You know what I mean? And I just texted him pictures of all the new single barrels. So now he's like, well, when can I come down? Whenever you want. Whatever. I think he wants me to bring some home so he can just walk across the street. But he's awesome. All right, what do we think of the first rye here?
It was delicious, sweet. It's
Yeah.
like caramel
Yep.
crunch.
You know, we just came out, there's a new one, it's not on the tasting tray yet, but a Dolce de Leche. Dolce de Leche, I guess hot toddy in this one. But Dolce is not out yet on the tasting tray, but that one's good too.
A lot of straw.
Yeah, a lot of straw hay. Yeah.
Is that good for you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet, dry grassiness. It's nice.
That's a great way to put it, actually. I like that. You need to work with you.
Hey, he could pay me in bourbon. It'd be fine.
I don't think we're quite there yet.
You know what's funny is the tasting notes, like when I would see like Caleb's or the other distillers like tasting notes, because you know I'm lucky if I get one or two things, you know what I mean? And I'm reading through the notes and I'm like, I feel like right about here you just are making it up, right? Because there's no way that you're still getting stuff out of that. Like, that's just because I have a very different palate. All right, who likes the rye best? This rye better than the bourbon? Anybody? Okay. You guys are looking at the
Better than the second one, not better than the first one.
Okay, you're still paying on the first one?
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. All right. All right. Last one, I saved the last one. This is one of my favorites. Perry out there who also, today's Perry's last day actually, but this is, she's been in love with this last one. This is smoked chocolate and cherries. This is the last rye that we'll try and it's very good. They're doing a deal out there where they'll sell you a bottle and the barrel, the single barrel. So I was gonna buy this barrel, like to have, because I got a new house or whatever, a little bourbon area. Literally 10 minutes before we closed, the guy went on a tour and loved it so much he bought the barrel. 10 minutes away.
It's kind of cool.
This one is cool. It's got a very dark color. I remember seeing it when they first came out. I'm that person that like you see cussing on the way to the store because I forgot my mask. That's me.
I actually really think that's like
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
anybody can.
You're very welcome. Right. All right, go ahead and note
Cool.
this one for me. This one is, you're looking at about 111, so they're all around the same proof on this tray. It's funny, I used to come in and work Thursdays and Fridays, like after school, so the summer, or warmer months were
barn
open
you're
late
in
till like 7.
That's nice.
And everybody out there is like, how do you work all day and then come in here and work again? I work with middle school kids all day. Like, it's not work. And I have a 3-year-old at home. Like, this is my downtime. They're gonna pay me to drink, and they feed me lunch. Like, you can't be. All right. What do you guys think about that nose? Cherry, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, cherry, but like dried cherries. and raisins.
Yep. Yep. And then it's got, go ahead and taste for me, it's got that kind of dark chocolate feel to it. Oh, very smooth, especially at 111 proof. That's the best thing too. I don't like to drink like a lot of liquid, you know, like I love beer, but just having that much liquid on my stomach is a lot. So I like this because I can drink
The
a lot.
maraschino cherry on the back end.
That's why it's
Chocolate covered maraschino.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting on the back end. Yeah.
Here, this is a couple of years ago. Poor thing, like she was super nice. And, like she ran this whole thing. I mean, there's like 100 people here. Right? She's doing great. But she started, started to relax. So offered her a little tasting glass. She had like 2 tasting glasses, like slurred words. Like I'm like, oh no, somebody's gotta get her. Somebody get her. All right. do you think? I know you're a rye guy. What do you think?
Also good, but very different than the last one.
Very different. Yeah. It's all that barrel. You like this one or the other one better?
I don't know. I don't know if I can say better. They're just different.
Yeah, apples and oranges, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Anybody else? Are you still number one back there?
I'm still number one, but number one, then 3, then 4, then 2. That's where I'm at right now.
Okay. You got a favorite?
I would kind of agree with that.
Oh, okay.
I think I like
3. Okay, we'll go around. What about you?
Number 1.
1 still? That's awesome. Because 1, like I said, is a bad rat sometimes.
I would prefer the 1.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm kind of smoked chocolate and cherries, and then I'm probably the ryes first, and then the
That's fine.
bourbons. To be honest. Anybody else want to share? Sorry, that just became Miss Armento, the teacher calling people out. Yeah. Who didn't raise their hand?
Yeah.
I think number 2 with just a touch, just a hit of water,
Okay.
just
Yeah.
a little bit of water.
My friend that teachers drink so much, you guys have no idea. We're the worst mouths, and we drink. all
Aren't you
the
going to be a
time.
teacher?
When we have a group of my friends, we hang out. My friend's got this really cool like porch area, and that's what she does. She does it like a spoonful of water in her bourbon. That's it.
I heard you're supposed to have water to like enhance the flavor of the bottle.
You can. It's really, yeah, it really did. That's a cool thing about it. It's all whatever you want to do, whatever you prefer to do. You know, people are like, well, what should I do? Whatever you want. If you like water in yours, then use water. If you don't, then you don't. But I mean, the only thing I would say, people are like, I wouldn't recommend throwing like Coke in there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a high-end bourbon and rye. But if you want to, you know, whatever. If you, I can't afford to do that, but yeah, it just depends on whatever you like. Like I do, sometimes I'll do it neat. It just depends on my mood. If it's cold outside, I like to just do neat. The summer, because I drink bourbon and rye pretty much all the time. I like wine. I like everything else, but this is kind of my go-to. But I'll throw a nice cube or two in. But again, it's just all whatever you prefer. Some people like the big fancy ice cubes, you know what I mean? I don't drink fast enough. Like it just melts. I end up drinking pretty much a big thing of water. And they're charging you now for the big ice cubes if you go out. I was at I think it was Barn 8, which is a place out in Bolton County. It's a really great farm to table restaurant, like really good food. She was like, "Do you want a big cube?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I'll try it." You know, $1.25. Not that I mind it, but it's weird. Like it's ice, right?
But it's big ice.
Big ice.
That's the important part. It's so big.
Man, I really do like this. I like all of them, really. Anybody have questions? Price points. I talk about
Buy all 4 bottles and
bourbons,
mix them.
small
That's
batch. If you're
pretty,
gonna buy
pretty
something,
good.
small batch, you can find wherever you are. Okay, I would recommend. I always tell people having a single barrel is really good to have in your bar arsenal, right? Because you can break it out. It's really high end, really unique. There's only 200 bottles of these made. So it's really unique. You can break out, at least for people that you like. Yeah, but it's just cool to have. The single barrels are 125, 124, I think, and then the small batch bourbon is, I want to say 69. You can find it cheaper at like Liquor Barn or somewhere near you for the small batches. So
We
if
got a
you
good
like
deal on a single
something,
barrel then.
if you really love that
Yes.
milk chocolate and cherries, I would recommend. Here's my cautionary tale, if you will. When I started here, I told you I was at my reunion, and we had this caramel and vanilla rye that was like amazing. Loved it. Don't know why I decided to buy the small batch, but I did just to have. I think I just wanted like the traditional whatever. So I'm like, well, I'm coming back a week later to sign my paperwork because Carson already said I could work here, so I'll just get a bottle then. Gone. Heartbroken, devastated. 3 years later, I'm still not okay about missing out on that because you can't reproduce it. You know what I mean? Like you might have something that's kind of similar, but when it's gone, it's gone. So, right. You guys get to keep your little glasses, so we can wrap those up for you. Not the tray, but just the glass. I had some ladies trying to walk out with like 3 trays left to you. You can keep the glasses. We'll wrap them up. If you want to buy something, they're in the cages, but you can't get to them because of COVID. We have them behind the counter, so you can just go up there and ask for whatever you like. So, Thank you guys for being awesome. You're my only tour of the week, so I appreciate you guys. Nice to meet you, all of you. How long are you guys in town?
Just the weekend.
Just a weekend? Okay. What about you guys?
Tonight, we're going down to Parkstown for a couple days.
Yeah. Where are you going down there?
Parkstown Bourbon Company, pretty much everything there.
Everywhere.
Blackstone Branch.
You gonna go to
Yeah.
Talbot Tavern?
What's that?
You gonna go to Talbot Tavern?
I'm planning on it, yeah.
And Bardstown Bourbon Company. We went there. Well, they were. Yeah.
Are you guys doing any more distilleries or?
Yeah, we're doing several.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think some.
Oh wow. There you go. Have you done any before this one, or are we
No,
never?
we
Okay.
just got here. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
I've heard from Carter in this, over by the river. Is that safe to live there already? Okay, that's what I was getting about, but.
Was there anything out here?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say if there's anything out
good to know.
here, but we close at 5, so
There was a
it's
cop
probably
there.
like.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's very
like
true.
off.
Because we were just kind of,
Just
your
tasting.
tours today are just kind of, we're able to walk each one. So I was like,
I know people hate it when I do this,
Well, yeah.
For the fans.
If
but
you
the
drive
combination
through
of all these are actually really good.
For the fans. Hit it for the fans. Let them know. You can talk now.
False information. If they don't, then it's Christine's. Then mine is Nikki.
so there should be parking though,
There'll be parking
no
after.
problem.
No,
Yeah,
really,
nobody's
the combination of that
down
is
Friday, nobody's down
fantastic. It's a
Depending on
natural.
where you're gonna go. I mean,
Looks like you're getting a little-
like down
little
on
low there.
Market Street, it get kind of crowded, but.
Okay.
You're gonna end me.
We're headed there later tonight, yeah.
I like parking bar, I think the street right next to their distillery.
That's just
They don't
too
even-
cruel.
But that should
Too cruel.
All right, Radar. For the fans. For Ryan, Ryan's in the chat. Do it for Ryan.
No, Ryan.
Do it for
I'm not
Ryan.
gonna drink the whole thing, but Ryan.
Later, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm.
You guys got dinner plans yet?
I'm keeping your glass for the show.
Well, I guess.
I mean, I was gonna leave it in the glass cabinet anyways. Glass cabinet's a very important tradition.
Yeah.
I just read those.
There's a bunch of great places down.
That is really good, though.
Area.
Uh-huh.
Like Doc Crow's right by the arena, like the Yoga Center.
They're
Or
right.
like, if you like burgers, there's Ryan Burger Kitchen, it's like my favorite burger in the city. There's Royals, which is like hot chicken, but they have bourbon milk chocolate milkshakes. Feast Barbecue is down there too, they have like bourbon slushies, or they did last time I was there. I feel like they always have this, but there's a bunch of.
I guess we could go to the beer store
There's a bunch
near
of great
you.
restaurants down there, for sure.
Could do that.
It's such a hipster place.
And you guys can keep your.
Ryan said, "What's going on, bro?
You can take
You didn't
them.
finish it for him."
Look, this is not something you shoot.
Yeah, but it's for Ryan.
I can't shoot
Are
this
you
in
guys
all
staying
in all
downtown, or
conscience.
you staying, like-
We're staying new in our Airbnb.
In all good
Okay,
conscience,
okay, So
Ryan.
you're in a great spot.
I'm afraid I can't shoot this.
Here, I'm
It's like-
Angel
it's like
Lydia, and then our Airbnb.
Legit, about
Originally,
$20
we
worth of
were trying to
bourbon.
come early and leave
And
the
rum.
Airbnb and Uber over
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that didn't work out.
Mm.
I would say they're. Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
it's good stuff for sure.
Alright, don't forget your glasses, because people always do, so for everyone else.
I'll just take this one with me. This one's more important.
Grab the mic. We're gonna walk around that there thing and then wrap her up.
Discounts, by the way, I forgot to tell you, if you get, was it, Christina, 2 bottles is $10 off, 3 bottles is $20 off.
Jumps to 50.
4 bottles, $50 off.
Hey.
Oh, it's good enough.
Thanks again, guys, you guys are awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm not holding tight.
Glasses?
Oh yeah, we got.
Got mine.
I gave them 2 because they were trying.
And you know, I didn't want to take two.
I mean,
I would
I
have.
want to be
happy
greedy.
to take 2, but I feel like that would be overreaching a little bit.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Last clean up.
Right on.
Yes.
Take the mic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You guys have a YouTube channel, is that right?
Oh yeah, here.
Yes.
Take these. I'll give her.
It's
A
relatively small, but we are the
Well, actually, technically, we're the largest
the
bourbon
largest
channel.
bourbon and beer channel.
What's the name of it? Because I don't know.
Kentucky Brew Reviews. Oh,
I'll-
you
I'll
have a
get-
card?
Review.
Actually, our cards are in our bag, but I think I have one in my
You're
wallet.
so bougie.
I like it. Thank you so much. I'll definitely check that out.
You'll be on there, so.
Oh, okay.
You're currently actually on there right now. We're
Oh,
doing
right now?
it's
Live?
yeah, this was live. This whole thing was live.
You're internet famous now.
Okay,
Congratulations.
I love it. I love it. Do you guys need me to sign a contract? Let me know. Happy to be a guest star.
I'll get my people to talk to your people.
Yeah, there you go. Bye, guys. Take care.
All right, bye.
Put my mask back on.
You too.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks. Let's wonder, shall we? Let's look at the.
Yeah. I need to go get a. Very well.
Go for it. All right, Radar, why don't you head upstairs and get our stuff?
Okay, yeah.
And I'll. Oh, maybe I should go with you because we can see the fermentation
Oh,
things.
that is very true. Okay, yeah.
Here, take this with you. Get a little bit of the fermentation. I'll take your stuff. Remember, he's not allowed to shoot. You can put those in the bag once you get up to the camera bag with
Thank you
glasses.
guys for that phone.
Oh yeah, that might have been me. Take this. Now take this. Give me my phone.
Get some fermentation. Get our stuff.
Fantastic. All right. I don't know how we get back into that room. I'm assuming we just go back into the room.
We just walk up the stairs.
I mean, I belong here. Do you belong here?
I belong here.
Yeah, we belong here.
I have a camera
Yeah.
and a microphone. We belong here.
This is where we belong. I feel like we should at least point the camera in there to get the vats. Yeah. All of that wort. Oh,
Oh,
it's, that kind of lock. We
yeah.
need to find a person. Locate an individual who's able to get us back to our backpack.
Hold on, bro.
I got you. Fun fact, there's a lock. Once you find somebody who can get us in there, we can get our backpack again.
You guys can see fermentation and stuff upstairs and Caleb's?
No, we didn't do that earlier. It's they had to keep that closed off, but our backpack and stuff is still in the conference room.
The speaking
Yeah, I'll
fee.
take you up there.
Various things we brought with us. That is a really cool room, though. We got to like peek inside.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Did you guys get to see the speakeasy over there?
Yeah. Where our stuff is at.
Oh, really? I love that room, man.
It's very cool.
Oh, hey, there's stuff.
Very good. Put it out. Put it in here. Excellent.
Are you guys want to walk or anything? Before we head out? Or are you good?
I think we should be all right.
Should be fine.
Okay.
It's a lot of stairs. A lot of stairs. We came up, realized there was a lock, came back downstairs.
Oh, okay, I see. So this is your second trip.
Yep.
All right.
Where are you guys going filming next? Do you know yet?
I am. We sent emails to. We sent emails to about 5 different places. So far, you guys are the ones that have gotten back to us.
Okay, awesome.
There's a little. I can't remember what it's called. Tradition Distillery or something
Okay.
in Bardstown. Little tiny place.
Okay.
It's actually down the road from where my girlfriend's or my wife, where her parents live.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah, we did Bourbon Trail on one of my anniversary trips a couple of years ago. We walk into Willett, and I'm walking in, I'm looking around, and our tour's about to start. And I see my friend Mitch, who I grew up with, is going to do our tour. He married his wife was part of the family or whatever, so he was just kind of helping out. Best part, though, was we were doing the tasting at the end, kind of like I just did with you guys, and then everybody was filing out. He was like, "You guys make a second." So we left, and then he pulled out like the awesome stuff. So that was a cool tasting.
Yeah, we had a taste of the beekeeper just now,
Okay.
or not just now, but before when we were doing the interview with Caleb. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a hard time not buying a bottle of that
Oh.
before we
just
leave.
Sold the last one.
Oh no! Well, you know what? That does simplify things for me.
There's
You're gonna have a really hard time buying it now.
It'll be really difficult.
That is your cautionary tale now. That is your caramel and vanilla.
It really that was really good.
Yeah.
That's not gonna fit.
You know, that one was never on the tray. People just came in and bought it.
It was. I'm amazed that you guys didn't do tastings of that because holy cow.
Well, yeah, that was the kind of a weird thing there because we don't usually have that many single barrels out at once, but it just happened to work out that way. So they didn't put it on the tray, but people came in. I mean, we were selling that left and right.
It's got a good name. I feel like the name has got a lot to do with people buying it.
Sure, I do too. Yeah,
Well, thank you.
Definitely.
All right, we ready
Is that
to
somebody's jacket?
roll out?
I think that might be Caleb's.
This could be Caleb's.
Okay. All right.
I think that is Caleb. Yeah. I don't think it would fit Kevin. I mean, one of our backup crew, obviously. Oh, good times. All right, I gotta buy a T-shirt before we leave. I get a T-shirt every place that we go
Yeah.
because it's necessary, no?
Yeah, I have pretty much every t-shirt that we have here. My neighbor does tell me about these towels too.
Yeah. Well, they gotta be tested by somebody, right? Make sure that they work like T-shirts.
Yeah. The Kelvin one up there is super cool.
Is it?
The Kelvin Cooper's one, but the gray one's awesome. They're all. If you guys have questions, just let me know.
All right, sign off, Radar.
All right. I'm gonna buy a T-shirt. You guys should come and visit the Peerless Distilling Company. It's pretty much awesome. Rewatch the video. You can go on the tour as many times as you want. Unfortunately, you have to come here to get the tasting. In the meantime, I'm Radar.
Hey,
This
you
is
can get
Kentucky.
bourbon shipped from Kentucky now.
You can get, yeah, that's a new thing. You can get bourbon shipped to and from Kentucky. You're welcome. And in the meantime, I'm Radar. This is Kentucky Brew Reviews. We'll see you later.